I shared a little bit in a recent video about our air conditioner and all the reasons that, well, it's not quite cutting the mustard, so to speak. Well, we need a new display, but apparently they had sent one and we don't have it. I don't know if it was like stolen or what. This AC was definitely better than the one that, the Houghton that it came with. If you're in a 23-foot trailer like this, I can't recommend it as like an actual solution. Is really what I'm finding, because unfortunately it just doesn't cool nearly well enough. So in 105, 110 degree heat, I mean, it's running at 800-900 watts. And that's just too many watts, right? I mean, practically speaking, if it's doing all that and it's not cooling it beyond, let's say 20 degrees, that's not acceptable. It's just not what we're looking for. However, some people might be more than happy with that. Got a couple more screws here. We'll see about giving this to somebody that can put it to good use, maybe in a van or an even smaller, like in a 13-foot trailer, 15-foot trailer. This thing would probably be pretty dang good. And thankfully we have a replacement. 4 bolts, and then I think we can go ahead and pop that guy up. The wires that I ran for this, really not a big deal. We can go ahead and actually probably leave those up there. Now the other thing is our replacement has a heat pump. This does not have heat, and so as a backup to our propane heater, when that kind of poops the bed at certain altitudes, this would be really nice to have. Now the heat pump is not going to work in like negative 17 degrees Fahrenheit, but it should work below freezing as far as I've seen, so that would be nice if that's true. I don't know why this did not occur to me, but a little adapter there makes quick work of this. That's much faster. There we go. If we can get a new display for this, I'd be willing to bet that we could bring this to Quartzsite and actually maybe even give it away. That'd be kind of nice. There we go. Whew, that cool air outside. So even on a 70-degree day, it starts to cook in here. And you can imagine, right, if it's buttoned up, even with the fan not running, but the lid open, it starts to cook, right? Because you got all these windows. And you're inside of a box, right? What happens in your car? Perfect. There we are, and we'll disconnect our 12-volt wires up top when we get there. Those are all run outside. And then, as you can see here, we have our existing 120 that we had our Houghton plugged into, and then there's also a 12-volt in case you wanted a fan and such. These connectors, I went ahead and zip tied inside of here, and that worked perfectly fine. No problems at all with that. Okay, remove that, and then we can disconnect everything. And I think we can just hand this down to Emma. Yeah. Easy enough. Wrap these guys up, and I just went ahead and tucked those right on in there, and off we go. That 12-volt unit has the advantage of being so light that I could just hand it right over to Emma there. Now we need to get rid of these gaskets, and they are stuck on, so I think a plastic scraper will do the trick here, and then maybe one of our towels, clean up the... So there's some water left in that. I think that's where all the weight was actually from, really, because that thing's pretty dang light. All right. A lot of plastic razor blade scraping, and I think it's looking all right. There were 2 that came off real easy, and then 2 that did not. I could sit here and go out these with like acetone. It's not worth it. We're just gonna put another gasket right over this, and it's all very, very smooth, so easy enough. And then Emma and my sister are gonna go ahead and lift this guy up. So that one right over there. And then we'll talk about what we have. Kind of exciting stuff. All right. So what we have here is the Turbro 13.5 thousand BTU. This is an inverter compressor model with a heat pump, which is very impressive. So we'll get this guy out. It's definitely heavier than that 12-volt unit. It is a 120-volt unit. Realistically, the efficiency doesn't matter at all if we're running it and it's not cooling us down to where we need to be. So we'll have to find another means if for some reason this is pulling more power. But that inverter is really the trick here, because it should, it's going to have more power, 13.5K versus a 10K, but it's going to be able to kind of step that power down, up and down. And so we'll see realistically what those numbers look like. 200, 300, 400 watts. At the lowest we ever saw the 12 volt unit running was somewhere around 300, 320, 350, somewhere in there. I know others have reported 230 watts. That's just not what I've seen in our testing of the Country Mod. 1, 2, 3. All right, we'll kick the box off. All right, there we go. Installing, uninstalling, reinstalling, it's all pretty simple. Generally, they have to squeeze together and you have to set them up right. So easy peasy. Oh, she's a beauty. Greenland inverter. But one thing that you guys should see here is this actually comes with its own gasket, which is why I didn't want to double up the gaskets. Otherwise, I would have left that one on there. One thing that's kind of interesting about this is that the coil goes all the way around. So it's a U-shaped coil. That's a lot of surface area for dissipation of heat and cold. The other interesting thing about this guy is that it's only about 9.96 inches. I ordered this in white. You can also get it in black. I wouldn't recommend it, but you can do that if you so choose. Also a really cool trick that this guy has that we'll check out on the inside. Let's go ahead and get this guy bolted down. It is a warm day, I'll tell you what. It says it's 70 degrees, but it feels like more than that. All right, so we have some things here. Actually, I'll show you this. We've got these just about perfectly lined up. We can do a little bit of adjustment, and then you can see where our stud should go in there, and so we'll suck this all down. But yeah, the gasket's built in. I kind of like that better than sticking them here, because if you wanted to sell it or trade, you know, whatever it is, upgrade, you don't have to mess with that like we did with the 12 volt. But yeah, I've got an intake and an exhaust. Pretty easy, and then all of our cables are going to be routed up here, I presume. Yeah, there we go. All right, so we have an intake, and they give you a couple of these different sizes. So if you have a thinner roof or a thicker roof, I think we're going to use the last one. Under this door right here, we have our electrical wires, and so we've got our Wago connectors, and on the back side here, there is a way, yeah, right through here, we can actually route these, and then so yeah, between the Wagos and that, simple as can be. And our yellow, oh, actually we have some extra if we need it. Go right through there. That's cool, so there's no chafing. All right, let's get those. We got those up there. Let's do these bolts. We go one bolt through the hardest one, which is that, and that's a cinch. Yeah, I can feel that actually tightening there. You know, I was a little concerned because this is plastic holding, but it actually seems pretty dang solid, and it looks really nice. Well, I love these Wago connectors, so I am making a few assumptions, hopefully nothing too crazy here, but I love this. You just slip the wire in there, clamps it down, that's going nowhere, right? And let's see, so we'll take the white to white, black to black, and then the green/yellow, we'll go ahead and connect that one to ground. So throw one more in there, and then we can slip all of these. It's interesting they're using stranded wire here, but it is flexible, and more flexible than this. So we'll tuck those ones up in there, and then, okay. Ground to ground. So those are amazing. These are definitely safer than the wire nuts. We'll go ahead, leave that there, and just go ahead and pop the screw back in there. Easy as can be. All right, so like Legos, we can go ahead and just plug. This looks like it fits there, and it does. Perfect, and we got another big guy, so it really isn't rocket science. It's just a matter of, you know, just get it snug and then get it plugged. Snug and plugged. I like that. And by the way, if I didn't say this before, make sure that your breakers are all off. And if you want to be extra sure, just go ahead and disconnect power from the entire trailer, disconnect your batteries, all that good stuff. Now we have 4 wires over here and 1 right here. And this is for the display board. What we'll go ahead and do though, these 2 wires is kind of confusing because they look like they're coming out of the same place. They are not. There's a male and a female side. We'll go ahead and connect those up. And so that's the communication, and then a freeze sensor. So one's coming from the actual AC unit, and then one's coming from the control box there. And we can come up here, and I'm gonna come back in here, I think again with tape. What I'm seeing actually is I thought there was going to be a fatter gap. As of this sucked up in there, there's no gap here whatsoever, which is really cool. But I can tell that these wires do, they kind of get in the way, so I bet that's going to introduce some noise. Yeah, I think if we tidy some of this up, that'll reduce some of the noise at least. Because it looks like a lot of that air can sort of just bounce around in there. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. We'll see. And we're going to fish this through this little grommet here. And maybe get through there. Come on. There we go. And then it does say front, you know, that way. So one of the biggest issues we had with the 12 volt unit is that it did not feel like there was a lot of air flowing. And so that's what I'm hoping to resolve with this as well. And then you can see a little filter there. You just pop that down with your finger, clean that out. Getting clean right now. And then we should have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 screws. Definitely don't use an impact drill. And then this part is very interesting. So this, there's a control board for the display, right? And yeah, push here for disassembly, do not pull. So you don't have to like pop a whole bunch of stuff down. What we can do is just connect this little wire here.
Labels the front.
And then front goes to front over here. So we'll go ahead and we'll set that in there. Tuck our wires and we just set, hey, just kind of pop it down. I'm gonna tuck this one over. Tuck this out of the way. There we go, tuck. There we go. That's it. And then there's a little cover. We'll pull that off as well. But that way, I think that looks pretty slick. Yeah, take a look at that. So our Houghton came all the way out here. This is a lot lower profile. The Houghton was very power hungry as well. So we'll see what this guy takes. But let's go ahead and flip the breaker. Yeah, let's see, it should be that guy there. I just heard a beep. So I suspect it's one company that does all of these remotes, but it is backlit. Let's see, AU25. Ooh, we connected up correctly. That's nice. Let's see, I got a Celsius button, Fahrenheit, so it says it's 77 in here. That was fast. That was really quick to turn on. So we'll get a mode. Okay, so you have a bunch of different modes on here. Auto is probably where, so we got it on cool. And I want to set this to 65 is probably pretty comfortable, but I can actually use the auto mode on here and trust it because it's going to ramp up and down. It's going to be more power efficient, and if it needs to heat, it'll go ahead and just do that automatically. So it is by no means an extremely hot day, but it's pretty warm in here, in my opinion. So right now we're at 17, 18 watts of alternating current, 19 watts. So we'll subtract 20 watts from whatever this pulls. So I'll go ahead and, I gotta say, it's definitely, it's not a super quiet unit, but it's not all that bad. So I have a decibel meter here, and you can see right now as I'm talking, so 55 right underneath it. And I'm over here, you know, it's because we're not hanging out directly underneath it, right? I'm over here, 48, not bad. And then I'm gonna reset again. We'll do it over by the bed. Yeah, not bad at all. That's pretty good. So sound-wise, what do you think?
I think it sounds like white noise. Like the sound doesn't bother me. It's a little bit louder than the other one, but it's really not bad.
I don't know. I don't mind it because we do like white noise, and especially if we're boondocking and we're in a city or something like that. It also drowns out like neighbors, dogs, things like that. So everybody might have mixed opinions, but what are we pulling power-wise? Right now, just the fan, it runs about, I want to say about 80 watts. 103, 98, so about 80 watts. And then the compressor just kicked on. We're at 220, 199, 197. 302. Look at that slow ramp up. That means that you can run this off of an inverter pretty easily. Yeah, we're coming up to 4, 516, 552, 579. Okay, and granted right now, this is not a perfect test by any means. Don't get me wrong, I know that. That air is cold though. Yeah, I can feel a pretty good amount of air right here. It's coming out. And that compressor, 752 is what that's running out. And so that's about what the 12 volt unit was running at as well, which is kind of nuts. Now, a lot of folks had asked me before, 823 watts, 826. A lot of folks had asked me before, what do we use to check the temperature of things with my phone? Is there an app, specific app they can download? It's actually, there's an infrared temperature scanner right here. So an IR sensor that will go ahead and test the temperature of things. So for example, right here, it is 78 degrees, right? I expect it to be hotter on top of the fridge. And 70, 80, yeah, 80 degrees, 80.9, 81. you know, climbing a little bit. It's got to adjust. You know, and this is not perfect. It's actually probably hotter right here. 82, 84, 81. It's about what so around the fridge, that would make sense, right? And then of course, if I'm looking at this material here, the sun is hitting, it's 95 where the sun is hitting right there. So I do think there's gonna be some optimizations we can do, and I wanna hide those cables a little bit better, get that out of the way of airflow. That'll also prevent that turbulence. That's kind of just the only thing that, you know, I can't prove that that is or it is not an issue, because obviously we just unboxed this and all that. But yeah, I'm getting 41, 39.4, 36, 39. Yeah, you definitely feel more air right from over here, almost none here, and there's nothing here, so. Yeah, it does feel like there's a lot more volume. Yeah, I got 43, 40, 42. It's weird, it's a little cooler on the other side. But this is also just starting up right now. 840 watts is what the total current is, so 820. That's what our 12 volt unit ran. So this is so interesting because the 12 volt unit should not have the losses as well, and that does factor for a lot of those losses. So, and now it's actually coming back down. So 809, 805. So we got fan plus, fan minus. Here's something that this is very interesting. I expected this unit to require DC power, and I'm wondering if there was a different unit that they had prior to this that required DC power for this function. So there's a little button right here that says light, and this is kind of neat. So if I go ahead and I push that, there's a blue light. Sometimes the colors aren't perfect on the video. There's a, let's see, darker blue, there's a green, and then it goes off. So actually, if you need a little bit of ambiance, you know, you don't want to turn on all your lights, that's actually kind of nice. You know, I wouldn't mind if there was like a red light as well, but hey, I'm not gonna complain by any means. That is actually really chilly. So it's ramping down to like 6. Yeah, that is pretty good. I'll leave that on auto. Yeah, 670. That's really good. Yeah, it actually cooled it down in here. With the door open, I might add, it's a big difference. The volume of air that's pushing is definitely. So these are things though, until you have a unit and you test it out, you actually really don't know. And I noticed that not everybody talks about these things either. Now I'll go ahead and I'm gonna put this, there's a couple different modes and we can see some of those. There's defrost, fan only. Now here's something that's really cool. There's an app for this. I know not everybody's into apps and all that, and I completely understand, but it's completely optional. There's an app for this, and it will tell you on your phone, anywhere that you are, and we have a little hotspot in here, so you know, as long as we have internet, we're good to go. We can check on our dogs. That's very important. We can see what temperature is it, and if it's not reporting at all, that may mean that as long as we knew that we had service, that is, may mean we have a big issue, we need to head back. Or it'll tell us, hey, it's 65 degrees, you're good to go. We don't have to worry about anything. Or, hey, it's creeping up to 79, 80 degrees. Yeah, let's head on back in and figure out what's going on. So that's really cool. Now there is a heat function. We'll report back on that because tonight I think the temperatures are supposed to get down into the upper 40s. We'll see how that works, but otherwise, so far so great. And I think we're gonna probably just strap this, especially for the nightlight function, strap this by the bed, a little Velcro there. Any other initial thoughts?
I'm really impressed with how much air it's moving. It feels cooler instantly in here, which has not been the case with other ones.
No.
And I do like the light feature as well.
All right, as you can see, I'm in project clothes here because it has been 4 days we've been testing this out.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I think it moves more air than any air conditioner we've ever had.
Yeah.
I also think that on the inside, it is loud, and it sounds like an airplane when it kind of like is ramping up and turning on.
Yeah. I would say I actually think it's about the same as the Houghton.
Maybe.
It sounds to me about the same as the Houghton.
Yeah. I don't think it's too loud that we won't get used to it though.
No. Well, and so we have had this set on auto, and auto, it was kind of confusing to me at first because I noticed at some points it would turn the heater on and then immediately shut off, or it would turn the cooling on and then stay on for a lot longer period of time. And I'm like, oh, that's weird, because it tries to stay between 68 and 72. That is actually how it's designed. And by the way, I love that LED light. I think that's really cool. I sucked it all up, so you probably get more light depending on your installation. But anyways, I love that. Here's the thing though. we have had this auto, and the temps have been, I think it dipped down to like 39, 40 degrees, something like that, overnight. Rain and sun. Today it got into at least the 70s. It's been in the 70s at least 2 of the 4 days. And it had been, I mean, right now, it's pulling, well, actually, I don't know. We have other things running as well, but 103, 102 watts because it's just running the fan. And when the compressor kicks on, whether it's heat or cool, it seems pretty similar. It seems maybe it uses a little bit less for cooling. This sucker will run at like 850 watts and pretty consistently. We don't see it at like 1,000 watts. That's really, really impressive to me, considering how much volume it is moving. So it's louder than like our 12 volt unit was, but it doesn't bother me one bit because it warms the space so fast. So at night, when it's getting down into the 40s, how much power are we using, right? Because it's an inverter model, much like a mini split where they're going to go and ramp up and then drop down and then ramp up and drop down. And this one, I will say, it's kind of a bummer. If you leave it on auto, you cannot have it just keep the fan on. So that would be nice if we could just keep the consistent noise because it has woken me up a few times. But if I'm looking at the stats from last night, for example, see 0.19 kilowatts, 0.29 kilowatts, and the tallest one we have here for consumption is 0.31, 310 watt hours is what this pulled. That's less than our fridge. And granted, because this is an average, so over the hour, it's only pulling. 310 was the most it used last night I don't know how that is possible, but it is definitely less than the 12 volt. So that's amazing. It's bigger, more air, a much more cooling capacity, so it doesn't have to work as hard. And that's kind of what we saw with that window unit too.
Yeah.
The bigger window unit was more efficient than the 12 volt unit because it was, I mean, one, it was 12,000 BTs versus 10, but also that inverter style. So even though it's 110, it's also nice that it has heat, by the way. I would definitely take this over the 12 volt. And I didn't think I'd say that.
Yeah. Well, and it really, like, because we know that we can run our fridge overnight and not drain our batteries to zero, we then feel confident that if this takes less power than the fridge, we could keep this on all night and be okay.
Yeah, and then just put this guy on propane so we don't completely deplete that. I just can't believe, like, this is making the fridge look bad at this point, but no, so obviously this is not the same test. We were testing the other air conditioners in 109 degree heat, 105, 109 in the Mojave Desert, so very dry. I have no doubt this thing would do pretty dang well in those same conditions, but we'll give you the hard data when we have it. Obviously right now, it's just that time of the year. So I look forward to that because to me, it matters. One, can you run it off of solar? Well, yes. And we've been driving all around, getting things done. No problem at all. It's run just fine between the truck and the trailer. Like our batteries have not dropped off 100%, is what I'm saying. And two, is it the best unit? So far, I would say, because putting a window unit in and out sucks.
Yeah, I think of the air conditioner units we've tried, this has been the best.
By far. So we'll have more updates on it. And I mean, if you're gonna upgrade, as of right now, I'm very impressed.
Yeah.
There's one other unit I think I'd like to put a head-to-head to, but out of everything we've tried, this kicks the Houghton out of the water.
Yeah, for sure.
Which, we paid extra for that Houghton, and so, whatever. I'd definitely take it over the 12 volt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for watching, guys, and give you some updates later, but we'll see you in the next video.
Bye, guys.
Bye.